Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I am so excited that you've taken this opportunity to be here with us for this event. My name is Ashley Lotzenheiser. I am the director of pre-MBA programs at an organization called Forte, and I'm really excited to be presenting with you today. And I want to first tell you how I'm going to spend our time together. I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of women in business school. I'm going to talk about Forte as an organization, help you understand the work that we do and the resources that we have available. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the current state of business school, give some advice and some possible next steps. And of course, I'm happy to answer any questions or engage with you in the chat. So as we go through, feel free to put in questions or comments as we go along. I'd be happy to engage with those as we go or at the end, depending on what you all have to say. If you want to let me know where you are kind of watching from, feel free to add that in the comments. I'd love to see where everybody is today so that I know whether to say good morning or good evening, I guess. But let us know where you are watching this presentation from. But as I said, I want to start today with a little bit of the history of women in business school. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a story. So I'm going to go all the way back to ancient history, the year 2000, which for me does not seem that long ago. For some of you, the year 2000 might have been before you were born, which is a little shocking for me to say personally. But back in the year 2000, there was a research study done by Catalyst and the University of Michigan. And that research study was titled Women in the MBA, A Gateway to Opportunity. And the reason why this research study was done was at the time, med school and law school were basically at gender parity. So in med school and law school, you were seeing 50% women, 50% men, very close to that. Whereas in business school, it looked very different. There was really only 25 to 30% women in business school. And so this research study was asking why that was the case. And so through this research, they identified a couple of barriers to women pursuing an MBA and pursuing business school. Some of those were a lack of role models. There was a perceived incompatibility with work-life balance. There was a lack of confidence in quantitative skills. And there was also a lack of employer support. And for those of you that remember the year 2000, it looked very different than it did today, right? In the year 2000, there was not as many organizations focused on DE&I. There were not as many organizations focused on helping underrepresented groups. And so it looked very different. And also, even if you think about kind of in pop culture or in kind of popular media, there was not nearly that focus as much as well. So what ultimately became of that? So from that research study, actually a group of MBA programs and corporations got together and actually formed kind of this working group. And that was organizations like Tuck and Columbia and Darden who got together and with a couple of companies, so Deloitte and Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and actually looked to address some of these obstacles and also wanted to help educate women about the power of an MBA degree. So regardless of industry or undergraduate major, helping women understand the power of an MBA. And actually from this working group, Forte was born. So Forte was born 20 years ago. We're celebrating our 20th birthday this year. Very exciting. And they got together to basically address what this research study identified. And thankfully, there's been amazing work done in this space, largely due to our amazing partners, our school and corporate partners, and the landscape of women in business school has changed significantly. However, there's still a lot of obstacles for women in the corporate world or in the working world. So there's kind of this conventional wisdom, this idea of a glass ceiling. So as women advance, ultimately they would hit this glass ceiling, which is breaking into senior leadership position. But actually, more recent research has identified what is called the broken rung, which is, in essence, there is a lack of women being promoted to managers. Women are promoted at a lower rate than men. And so the glass ceiling is not even achievable because women aren't necessarily even making it up to the glass ceiling in order to break it. So the gains that women have made in representation in the workforce also are hindered by this broken rung. And that continues especially for women who are also women of color, who identify with other underrepresented groups. And so there's this, women are really losing ground at every stage, right? They're losing ground at being promoted to manager and then senior manager, and then of course, into executive levels. And so, unfortunately, the ground that we've made at business school is great, but still less than 10% of CEOs are women. So there's a lot of work still to be done in representation, broadly speaking, in executive leadership. And why this is important is for a couple different reasons. So obviously, the focus on DE&I in today's workplace is extremely important. Women are more likely to be allies in the workplace to women of color, to one another, and to other underrepresented groups. Also, women spend nearly twice as much on DEI efforts than men. And sometimes that work is really going unrecognized. And so part of the important thing also is if that does not appeal to you, a BCG study found also that companies with more diverse management teams have higher revenue. So at the end of the day, DE&I also affects revenue of organizations. So if nothing else, if all you care about is bottom line, you should certainly care about representation in the workforce. And so why I bring this up is because the MBA is a really critical tool that can help women kind of springboard beyond this broken rung and can help you develop the confidence and the skills and the network that you might need in order to advance in the workplace. And so Forte as an organization, this is one of the areas that we help with, is really helping women understand the power of an MBA and help you move forward in your career presentation. This is why we do the work that we do, to help women advance not only in their career, but ultimately as future business leaders. Because if nothing else, I think over the last few years, we have learned that there are going to be problems that we face as organizations and as individuals, as communities, that we can't necessarily anticipate. And so we need innovative business leaders that are going to solve problems in new ways. So Forte as an organization ultimately is about changing the balance of power in the workplace and changing the status quo. And we've grown a lot from that working group. So today we have over 100,000 women in our network. And we are an amazing group of over 150 companies, business schools, undergraduate programs, donors, and of course, supporting organizations or supporting communities. And today, the work that we do spans multiple levels. So we do work at the undergraduate level, which is helping undergraduate women understand how to get into a career in business, understand the options that exist in business. We also help, of course, women who are currently MBAs. So at our partner schools, that could be women who are looking for support in a women's organization on campus, hosting different events, looking at gender equity in the classroom as well as in the workplace. And then we also help professionally. So if you're a working professional, we offer tools and resources as well as programming to help you advance in your career, whether that's that you're looking to move into management, you're looking to sit on a board, you're looking to move more into an executive role, things of that nature. But most probably relevantly to the audience today is we provide specific resources for women that are considering an MBA. So I talked about kind of the power of an MBA and hoping to move the needle. The great news is that 20 years ago, partner business schools were about 25 to 30% women. Today, partner business schools are about 43% women. So we've made huge progress in moving the needle towards gender parity in business school. However, there's still obviously work to be done. But we do work with a large group of full-time MBA program partners. So we do have 58 MBA partner organizations across the United States, Canada, the UK, and Europe. And so this is a great opportunity to consider one of these programs because they support the work that we do at Forte. So they align with the mission of Forte of changing the status quo and seeing more women leading in business school and in business. The other important thing to note about all of these partner business school is all of these partner business schools at the full-time level offer Forte fellowships, which are scholarships specifically set aside for candidates who identify with the mission of Forte. So If you identify with the mission of Forte, if you think this is something that kind of aligns with what you're looking for professionally, then considering one of these great business schools is an option because they do have these specific Forte fellowships. So Forte fellowships are, as I said, scholarships. The schools themselves actually select and fund Forte fellows. So what that means is if you're looking at one of these partner business schools, and I'll tell you right now that you do not have to memorize this list. I'm actually going to drop a link in the chat. So I don't feel like you need to memorize what this list is, but I'll get a link out. And all of these partner business schools have a process in which you can be considered for one of these Forte fellowships. So if you're interested, definitely be checking out one of these partner business schools. As I said, a wide range, and this is just at the full-time level. We also do work with some partners at the executive and professional level if you're interested too. But before you get there, if you are kind of currently going through the application process, the other item I want to mention is that earlier I talked about kind of the potential barriers to pursuing an MBA. And one of the big ones that we see is candidates not realizing that they already have what it takes to be a great MBA candidate. So a big piece of Forte programming is helping you build the confidence that you need in order to submit an application to business school. I often tell candidates you already have everything you need to submit a great application to business school. You should not need to change who you are to find a great business school. It's about putting together a great application, but you are already wonderful applicants. So you do not need to shape yourself into what you think a business school applicant can look like. It's really about the things that you already possess and all those great characteristics and the things that make you unique and the story that you have to tell. You should certainly not be changing who you are in your story in order to fit what a business school, what you think a business school needs. So one of the tools that we do have, which I would highly recommend you take a look at, is if you think you need assistance through the application process, we do offer a program called MBA Launch on Demand. That program is a self-paced program you can go through to basically understand the application process. And this program it has been around for many years. And in total, across all of MBA Launch and our live program, there's over 5,000 women that have gone through this application prep program. And the idea is to really help you build your best MBA application. So again, it's about that self-reflection piece, helping you understand all the great things you already have to offer and helping you build your best application to business school. So MBA Launch on Demand is an open enrollment, self-paced program. Enrollment is open now. So if you're interested, you can certainly participate. You can go ahead and sign up today. A couple things to note about this program. As I said, it's a application prep program. So it's going to help you build your application to business school. So really actually help you understand how to write application essays, who to get letters of recommendation from, how to craft your story, how to tell your story through the application process. The other piece I'll mention is there is an enrollment fee associated with this program. So there is a fee that you pay to do this program. However, candidates who complete this program do get fee waivers to over 40 of those partner schools I mentioned earlier. So there's great ROI on the program. If you're looking for application fee waivers, this is a great way to go about that. So if you're interested in kind of an application prep program and some fee waivers, this is a great option. As I said, application enrollment is open now. I saw that there was a question earlier about application fee waivers. The application fee waivers that we offer through this program, this is a question from Natasha, are just for the MBA program. So this would just be helping you prepare for an MBA application, not a specialized master's or something like that. But it is a great option. As I said, if you complete this program, you get application fee waivers to over 40 partner schools. So definitely worth it. The other piece is there's some community that you'll get access to. So there is a community of women that are going through the program right now, as well as women who've already completed this program. So while you're going to complete the program asynchronously at your own pace, there is an opportunity to connect with other women doing this program too. So a great option to consider. If you have any questions about this, definitely feel free to drop those in the chat, and I will happily answer those. So If you have questions about on-demand, definitely put those in. I'm happy to talk about that program further. The other thing I'll mention is I can share 2 great blog posts about 2 recent women who have completed this program, one of which was a candidate living in the United States, and another candidate was living outside of the United States. So great options regardless of where you are in the world, because it is an asynchronous program. So especially if you're working, you're traveling for work, things like that, this is a great option to help you through the application process. Great. I will also mention that we do have some both in-person and virtual events that are Forte specific. So if you're interested in learning more about all of those partner schools that I mentioned, there are great ways to connect. Obviously, doing events like you're doing today with the GMAT Club is one of the perfect ways to go about doing that, right? But also, if you're looking to connect further, if you happen to live near one of these cities, we'd love to see you in person. Otherwise, we do have 3 virtual events this fall as well. You can connect online. Typically, at those virtual events, there is programming, and then there's also an open expo where you can meet typically over, usually somewhere between 60 and 80 of our partner schools and guest schools as well. So definitely something to check out. The last thing I'll put up here, and then I'll take some questions, is definitely reach out with questions. You're welcome to contact me directly. Happy to answer questions about the work that we do here at Forte and any of the resources that I just mentioned. So I'll put that up here as well. There was a question about on demand, so I'll go back here to this slide and I'll answer this. The MBA Launch Program. So there's 2 versions of our MBA Launch Program. One is the option that's open now, which is our MBA Launch On Demand program. So that on demand program is self-paced and asynchronous. So you can be located anywhere in the world. You can complete this program on your own time. And that is open to anyone living anywhere in the world. So US or international. We have quite a diverse array of locations here today. I should have said a lot of good evenings, I think, to a fair number of the audience. But yes, you can be located anywhere to be completing that program. I should also mention, we do have a live version of that program, a cohort-based program. So MBA Launch also, we have a cohort program that does require an application, and that is a synchronous program. So that program applications open in August. You apply to that program, and it's an 8-month cohort-based program that runs from February to September. So that program, we often call it MBA Launch Live. You have to apply to that program. In that program, it is synchronous content. So the live version of MBA Launch, it's synchronous. You do need to be able to attend some live programming. We offer that in different at different times a day, so we can meet different time zones. But that program does require you to meet weekly benchmarks as you go through the program. So if you have a very hectic work schedule, that isn't necessarily the best option. And that program won't start again until February of 24. So if you want to submit applications this fall, then I would highly recommend On Demand, because that program is open now and can help you submit round 1 applications. Great. Let me read this question. There is a question about timelines and deadlines to complete MBA Launch On Demand. Great question. To use the fee waivers. Thank you for this question. So as I said, it's self-paced, which means you get to decide how long you take to go through the program. But of course, there is a deadline. So you do need to complete the content by the end of January. So the program is open enrollment. So it's been open for a couple months now, and will continue to be open through the fall. But once you enroll in the program, the clock starts ticking, and you do need to complete by the end of January, which basically means you need to be through the programming in order for you to submit an application in kind of the coming application year. So it is designed for candidates who want to apply either this fall of 2023, or spring of 24. So the idea is, if you sign up today, you have much more time to access the content. So if you signed up today in June, you would have 6 months of time that you could be utilizing the content. But if you waited to sign up until like December, you'd only have 2 months to try to go ahead and complete the content. So if you are pretty confident you're going to be submitting within the next year, I would say the earlier you sign up, the better, because you get more time to complete the content. But it is self-paced. So you can go, 1 week you could spend an hour on it, and then the next week you can spend 10 hours on it. So it's really up to you to decide how you'd like to structure your time. We do have some recommendations, but it's up to you to decide how to structure your time on that. Great question. Thank you. There is also a question of, is there an option available for those wanting to apply this fall? Question from Jenny. Yes. So this would be an option if you wanted to apply this fall. So the program is open now. So say you wanted to submit first round applications, some of those might be in like early September. You could do that you can do that program starting today. So this program will help you submit an application in the fall. So Jenny, if you're wanting to submit in fall, this is absolutely a program for you. You wouldn't be able to do the live program because the live program doesn't start until February, but this on-demand version is open now and would be a great option for you to start to apply this fall. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Great. There is a question here about scholarships. So I mentioned that our partner schools all obviously help us in the work that we do. So we have 58 full-time MBA partner schools. These schools all offer Forte fellowships, which what that means is there are specific scholarships through these programs that these schools offer because they are Forte partner schools. Only Forte partner schools can offer Forte fellowships. So Sonia, specifically my answer is related to the Forte fellowships. Some of our partner schools may have a additional question or additional step in order to be considered for a Forte fellowship. But some schools may just ask you if you're interested in being considered for a Forte fellowship. So in essence, do you align with the mission of Forte? Are you interested in being considered for a Forte fellowship? Sometimes it's that simple. But I would say if you're interested in one of these schools, or any of these schools, and you are interested in a Forte fellowship, you can just ask the schools what the process is. So you're welcome to ask the schools, hey, X school, I'm interested in being considered for a Forte fellowship. What does that process look like? And it's actually a great question to ask if you're in a session maybe like this, and the school is a partner school. You could say, hey, I know you're a Forte partner school. Would you be able to tell me about the process to be considered for a Forte fellowship? It's a great question to ask, shows you're, paying attention, and it's a great way to talk to a school. So hopefully that helps a little bit, Sonia, with your question about scholarship. Great. There's a question here about job search, post-MBA job search. This is a very timely question. Does Forte help, or does Forte offer post-MBA job search support? So actually, this week, Forte is hosting our annual MBA Leadership Conference. So every year, we host a leadership conference in the summer. The location changes every year. This year, we're in Dallas, Texas. And it is an opportunity for enrolling women at partner school. So if you're a woman enrolling in a partner school in the fall, before you even start your MBA, you would join us at the leadership conference. It would be a chance for you to, of course, meet other women, other Forte women at other Forte partner schools, but it's also a chance to connect with our corporate partners. And that is a great way to start the internship and job search. And prior to my work at Forte, probably should have said this earlier, but prior to my work at Forte, I did work in admissions and recruiting for 10 years. So I can tell you from the school side, I would have women who would go to the Forte Leadership Conference and be meeting with companies and would be potentially interviewing for internships for their next summer. So I would have women who would be starting their MBA in the fall who might already have an internship lined up because of something like the Forte Leadership Conference. So that's a great example of how we help with kind of post-MBA job search, because obviously an internship is a great potential avenue to a full-time offer at post-MBA. Also, if you attend a Forte partner school, you also can list your resume on our job board, which means corporate partners can be reaching out to you. It also means that you could be looking at their job listings. So there's job listings that we post there as well. So it's a great option. This is another way to expand your post-MBA job opportunity. So if you think about your MBA institution will, of course, offer you great job support and great career support, but Forte is another layer that you can add on to that as well. Great question. Do you have to be a part of Forte to get a Forte fellowship? Good question, Julie. It is not required that you participate in a Forte program in order to be named a Forte fellow. However, participating in a Forte program is a great way to demonstrate your commitment to Forte and your commitment to the mission. So we do ask schools to consider candidates' commitment to Forte's mission and values when they pick Forte Fellows. And so obviously, if you participate in something like MBA Launch, it's a great way to demonstrate that. Schools do know if you do MBA Launch Live or MBA Launch On Demand. So they do know if you've participated in one of our programs. And obviously, if you're using a fee waiver that's associated with MBA Launch, they'll know that you completed that program. But it is not a requirement because it's up to the schools to decide and pick those Forte Fellows. But as I said, it can definitely help bolster your candidacy. There's another question about Forte Fellowships. Is work experience considered, or can someone right out of college have a chance if they have good internships and experiences? Deshita, that's a good question. So candidates will evaluate Forte Fellowships, which is a scholarship, typically after they've evaluated you for your candidacy. So obviously the first step is you have to get into the program, right? They have to want to admit you to then offer you a scholarship, right? So I would say your question is really about MBA programs that don't require work experience. And that would be definitely something you'll want to ask specific partner schools or specific schools, because some MBA programs may require that you have post-grad work experience in order to be considered for admission. So some schools might require that you have at least 1 or 2 years in order to be a part of their full-time MBA program. Though there are many MBA programs that are early career or early entry programs, which are designed for candidates for maybe 0 to 2 years of experience. But I would say, probably the majority of the programs that we work with, candidates typically have work experience prior to doing an MBA program. There's a question about the application fee waiver. So yes, we have 58 partner schools. If you complete the MBA Launch Program, the live program, or the on-demand program in a given year, typically I think it's like 46 of these partner schools offer a fee waiver. So not all of them will offer a fee waiver to candidates who complete this program, but a large portion of them will. So if you are interested in a fee waiver, and that's going to be a determining factor for you, on our website, you can also see the full list of schools that have offered fee waivers. So if you're interested in looking at that and want a school specifically, like, hey, does this specific school offer a fee waiver, you can find that on our launch website as well. And I'll toggle over to that page so you can, if you go to MBA Launch, our MBA Launch site, that will tell you if they offer a specific fee waiver. Is there a fee to join the program? Yes. So there is a fee associated with the MBA Launch On Demand program. It's $450 US. And then, as I said, that program does allow you, should you complete that program, to get those fee waivers. That program cost is highly subsidized by partners and donors. So yes, there's a cost associated with that program, but it is already highly subsidized. There's not any discounts or waivers for that program fee, but typically candidates report very high ROI on the application fee waivers that they receive after doing this program. The other thing you get when you enroll in the MBA Launch On Demand program is there's some free GMAT prep associated with this program. So we have some free GMAT prep resources. And then also we have discounts on prep services. So if you are interested in taking a class or using an online prep tool, the MBA Launch On Demand program does have discounts available for GMAT prep resources and GRE resources. And then also discounts on some admissions consulting partners. So we do provide content not only from our team and from schools, but also from some admissions consulting partners. So if you're interested in using an admissions consultant, we work with some specific ones that may offer discounts to our participants as well. Yes, and a question from Traveler. You do need to complete, the question is, do you need to complete the program or just enroll to get the fee waivers? You do have to complete the program. So you do actually have to do the program because it's an indication to schools that you have committed to building a great MBA application and you've completed the curriculum. So you will need to actually complete the program in order to get those fee waivers. Yes. Is there a limit to the fee waivers? No, though I'll give you some free advice, which is, generally speaking, I would not, you don't want to be applying to too many schools. You really want to make sure you're applying to the schools that are the best fit for you. So I would say on average, candidates typically use five, typically are applying to about 5 schools, I would say, some more, some less. But I would say, on average, candidates are probably applying to 5 schools. And so, you're not going to be using all 46 fee waivers by any means. Yes. Great question. Yeah. Don't try to use them all. That would be, that would be a great ROI. You pay $450 and probably get about $6,000 worth of value. That's great. But then you're submitting 40 MBA applications and that would take you a year. So don't do that. Yeah. Great. I'm going to see if there's any other questions that I missed. Let me see here. There's a question about essay review. So who's this from? Natalie. Question on essay review. So the MBA Launch on Demand program is asynchronous, meaning that you're going to be completing the program on your own timeline. So what that means is kind of what I mentioned earlier. You could be spending, you might have a week where you're really busy at work, and so you do no content that week, and then the next week you're going in and you're watching some videos and you're completing some homework and things like that. This program is asynchronous, so you and another person that enrolled on the same day could be in very different places as you go through this program. So the idea is you're going to be going through this program in essence, on your own. So there is not specific coaching within this program, the on-demand version. Within the live program, there is coaching that we provide where you could be talking to someone on our team about your applications. You could be talking about letters of recommendation or your essays or things like that. And you can get some more one-on-one advising. That cohort-based program, because you're going through it synchronously, so everyone is going through the the curriculum at the same time. There's the ability to kind of do things like essay review and resume review and things of that nature. So in the on-demand program, the answer is no, not necessarily, though of course you could use a consultant for that. But in the live program, yes, there would be opportunities for you to get more personalized advice on the application process. We do provide some one-on-one guidance through on-demand, but just because everyone's at different stages, it's not worked into the curriculum the same way it is for live. Great. Let's see. There's a question also about kind of basically criteria for scholarship and setting yourselves up for success in scholarship consideration. Typically, schools, when they are looking at a scholarship criteria, they're really looking at the same things that they're looking at for applications. So my prior work in admissions and recruiting, I would read thousands of applications, and we would be considering them both for admission and then also for scholarship. So to really have the best chance at a scholarship, your best option is to submit your strongest application. So all the things that go into a great application are also the things that are going to make a great scholarship candidate. And I think there's a couple additional things that you could think about. One is, if scholarship is going to be really important to you as you think about your decision for an MBA program. So if scholarship might be your most important criteria, so like that's going to be your number one consideration. A couple things. One is, generally speaking, applying earlier in the process is better. So all else being equal, which is a big qualifier, applying earlier generally is better because schools have the most spots open and the most scholarship dollars to give out. Generally, applying earlier, it can assist you in that process. Certainly can't hurt you. The other piece is, if scholarship is the most important factor, meaning that you value scholarship, the total cost of the program, over something like ranking or career outcomes, then I would encourage you to look at schools where your profile might be above average versus just average at a program. So what that means is, if you look at your GMAT score versus the mean of the class, or you look at your academic profile versus the average of the class, are you above or below the average? And if you're significantly above the average, then you might be helping that class profile, and so it might be advantageous for you to apply to programs where you're more on the higher end of their averages. Whereas if you're already below average on your profile, given work experience, GMAT, GPA, academic history, things of that nature, if you're already below average, then your chances of admission might be harder to get in, and then may also be harder to get a scholarship. So I'd say, that's a chance where if you want to be looking at a class profile, that can certainly help you. But I think above all else, you should be applying to programs that are the best fit for you, meaning they align with your goals, they align with what you're looking at a program. And so generally the advice that I give candidates is the most important thing you can spend time doing through this process is self-reflection. So not asking other people what the best MBA program is, but really asking yourself, what's the best MBA program for you? What are the things that are most important to you? Is it where you want to spend your time? So is it the location of the program? Is it the career outcomes? Is it helping you get into your target industry? Is it the community that you're going to be a part of? So is it the people that are going to be sitting next to you in class? Do you want a small community? Do you want to live in a small town? Do you want to live in a big city? Things like that. The most important thing you can spend time doing is really those self-reflection questions early to help you ensure that you know what you want. So when you find it, you know it. Great. Does submitting a lot of MBA applications have a negative effect on the admissions committee? Do they get to know? Well, some schools might ask you what other schools that you're applying to. So some schools might say, let us know other schools that you're applying to. And I would say, don't lie, but first, I would say the more you submit, there's only your limiting factor is time, right? So the more applications you're submitting, the less time that you're going to be spending on each one, which can certainly be detrimental. It's less time that you have to craft the application for each individual school, which is usually negative, right? When you think about why you want to attend one of your schools versus another, hopefully you have very specific criteria that you're applying to each. And then the other piece is, from an admissions committee perspective, when I used to sit on an admissions committee, if I saw a candidate that was applying to 15 schools, I could guess that they didn't know what they wanted, because MBA programs, while on the surface sometimes look very similar, they are very different. So unless I saw some really common thread across all of those programs, the other thing I would think about is if I'm one of those 15 schools, I can't imagine you're very interested in me. If you're only applying to 3 schools, I'm like, oh, I got a 1 in 3 shot, right? If you're applying to 15, I'm thinking, I probably don't have a lot of time to really, try to persuade this person, right? Because they have to spend, if they're admitted, they're going to have to decide between 15 programs. So I would say you're going to have to narrow down the list, and it's going to be tough. I think right now, since none of you are likely submitting applications right now, keep the list long early, keep the list long, do your research. But when it comes down to it, save yourself some heartache and headache and narrow down that list. The other thing I'll tell candidates is you might apply to some schools round 1 and then have kind of a backup list, right? An A, B list. This is my A list. I'm going to apply to all these schools round 1. If it doesn't work out, then I have a B list and I'll submit January applications. That's a great option too. There's a question about the executive assessment. It depends on the school. So Natalie's question is about evaluating the EA, which is, if you're unfamiliar, it's a test also developed by GMAT, which is the same organization that administers the GMAT exam. Generally designed for candidates that are more senior as far as work experience. It was originally designed for executive MBA programs. Some full-time MBA programs accept the executive assessment test, but not all. So you'll definitely want to make sure that it's evaluated. If you're applying to an executive MBA program, my answer would be different than if you're applying to a full-time program. So it kind of depends on what type of program that you're applying to. But I just want to kind of wrap us up. Hopefully you'll consider that MBA Launch On Demand program, as I mentioned. You're welcome to reach out to me and also on Forte to learn more about the programming that I mentioned. I certainly appreciate you all investing in yourself by being here today and learning more about Forte. I will be on Zoom at 10:30. So if I did not get to your question, definitely join me on Zoom at 10:30 Eastern. Happy to answer your questions there, as well as I talk a little bit more about Forte. But I also just want to mention that I hope you all take this opportunity today and tomorrow to really look at the amazing breadth of schools that are available to you and that have invested their time in helping you learn more. There are, the goal of schools is to find great candidates. So I always remind candidates that they need you to enroll. So they are looking for great candidates. They are looking for you. So put yourself out there, ask great questions. Thank you all for those of you that asked questions today. Really appreciate it. But make sure you go to these school sessions and keep an open mind. There are so many wonderful programs out there. Even if you haven't necessarily heard of a program, it absolutely could be a hidden gem. It could be the program that's perfect for you. So take the opportunity to learn from my amazing colleagues who work at our wonderful schools that are here today and tomorrow. And I certainly hope you enjoy the rest of the program today. And big thank you to GMAT Club for having me. But with that, I will say I'm done.